Angelo and Brenda, the most listened to weekend morning show on Vero Beach Radio.
All right, we're back. Coming up, Michael Kanuka with Ocean Mortgage, a real estate lifestyle show. Angelo Vecchiarelli and Brenda Carmona live.
The most listened to weekend morning show on Vero Beach Radio.
That's the swing of medallions here. A double shot of my baby's love.
Love.
WAXE 1370 AM, 107.9 FM, nationwide, iHeartRadio. Hey, it's Angelo Vecchiarelli and Brenda Carmona, along with Ray G on the Coffee Bar, Champagne Bar this morning. How you doing, Ray? And
Ray?
Let's bring on our next guest, Brenda. We have
Michael Kanuka with Ocean Mortgage.
Hey,
good morning, Michael.
Good morning to you.
Hey, Mike, we finally got you on here. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago. You were on vacation. You were going on vacation.
That's right.
Yes.
You went on a nice cruise.
I sure did, and it's nice and relaxing.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where you're so wrapped up in your everyday life, and then you go to one of these cruises, which we'd never been on before, and it's just so relaxing coming back. But then you get hit up again by all the things that you're working on, and suddenly you forgot about your vacation, but...
You can always plan the next one.
I could picture him at dinner, right? Sitting at a table of about 6 people. You know how they put you at tables. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Mike's, what do you do for a living? Yeah, I'm a mortgage guy. Oh, yeah.
I know. Hey. And all of a sudden it's work again, right, Mike?
Yeah, I avoided that like the plague.
No business cards, no cell phone.
No.
A little bit about yourself. Are you from Florida originally?
No, originally I'm from a little town called Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada.
Canada?
Ooh.
Yes.
Where?
Wow. Canada.
China.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so grew up in Saskatchewan, which is really centrally located in Canada, and went to school there. Also went to school in the U.S., and that's where I met my wife to be, and that's where we ended up staying for the most part. Although we've kind of flip flopped and gone back and forth to Canada and the U.S. Most of my business career was here in the U.S., but had a taste of both countries, and it was great for my kids as well.
Was it in Vero Beach that you met her or moved to?
Tampa.
How'd you end here?
It was actually Tampa.
How'd you end up here in Vero?
Well, I guess I can thank my parents for that because they discovered this beautiful location.
Oh.
And when we were kids, we would drive, believe it or not, from Saskatchewan all the way down to Florida, which took about 45 hours.
I was going to say it had to be a 2-day drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so that's in my blood. The driving was always in the blood. So we always, with my family and my wife and our kids, we've always come down to Florida. So when we discovered it, after we discovered it, we bought a place about, 17, 18 years ago, and we've been coming down ever since. And then about 2 years ago, we decided to make the permanent move here.
Awesome.
Very nice. How many kids do you have now?
3.
What are their names?
Yeah.
He's planning more.
Well, he said he might. I don't know.
His wife doesn't know anything about
Well,
it.
being Father's Day, I think it's a good topic.
Sure.
What are their names?
Yes.
Katie is my oldest, and she's 26.
Oh.
And due with her first and our first grandchild in August.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You don't look
Thank
much
you.
older than like
No,
26.
I know.
You look very young.
You gotta
that
see this
cruise
guy.
did wonders for you.
I introduce her as my sister.
Oh, wow.
No.
Well, congratulations on the upcoming grandchild.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
And then my son is 23, and he lives in Ottawa in Canada.
His name is
Bennett.
Bennett, okay.
Hey,
and
Bennett.
and also my youngest is Madeline, and she's in Montreal finishing her last year of university.
Wow, that's
Wow,
awesome. And your
very
wife's
nice.
name is?
Melinda.
Melinda. Hi,
Good morning,
Melinda.
Melinda.
How you doing today?
Neil Diamond song.
Yeah, Melinda.
That's right. She's probably looking forward to that little grandbaby, too.
Oh my gosh, it's the topic of conversation every day, which is great for me as well.
How exciting, a first grandchild.
Oh, I
right?
know.
I can hardly wait.
Yeah. Michael, you're the founder and president of Ocean Mortgage Capital right here in Vero Beach. And how did you get into the mortgage business, if you will, in the banking business?
Well, I guess I started off as an accountant and discovered that when I was auditing, which I couldn't stand, quite frankly, auditing, I enjoyed the real estate side of affairs. So I got to know some people and developers and construction lenders, and it was of interest to me. And I guess the long story short is that eventually I realized that I liked the number side of it because of the accounting background. but I didn't really want to be that public accountant. So the banking side came into play, and I ended up helping to start up one of Canada's biggest banks, their construction lending program in California.
Wow.
Wow.
And so that's how I got started in my career and worked with them for about 8 years, moved to another big money center bank. And you know what? I found that because a lot of the banks can tend to box their customers where, you know, you can't be flexible with the kinds of terms and conditions you can offer.
Right.
I found myself referring business to mortgage brokers, good quality mortgage brokers who I knew would get the deals done. And even though I was, you know, approving loans, some of them I couldn't get done. Just for purposes of our parameters and guidelines, couldn't get it done. So I always thought, you know, one day I'd like to do that. And it was a perfect opportunity for me to kind of escape the bureaucracy, the big bank.
Work
you know,
outside the box.
Exactly.
Right.
And having my own company and doing really all that I used to do, but without all of that bureaucracy, it has been a breath of fresh air.
Sounds good.
You know, years ago, if you wanted a mortgage, you go to a local bank, and that was it. That's the only choice you had. Now, today, why would someone use a mortgage broker as opposed to walking into that bank and speaking to a loan officer about real estate and a loan?
Well, I think the key issue is that when you walk into a bank, you are pretty much restricted to the products and services that are offered by that particular bank. If you come to a mortgage broker, then the mortgage broker is unrestricted. They can go to community banks, they can go to state banks, national, international for that matter. And there are a lot of investors that basically are looking to invest their money into residential mortgages. And so I am completely unrestricted. I can go to any different lender. I'm not invested in the lender. The lenders are not invested with me. I don't owe them anything. I'm not tied to them. So as a result, I can get the best possible deal that's in the market today.
Cool.
And I think the key issue behind that, too, is the independence, in that I can offer the independent advice and say, you know, I think you're getting a good deal, or I think you can do better.
Before you get to that question, Brenda, who is your average person out there? What's your niche? Who are you servicing out there?
You know what? It's all over the map.
I like
actually
that.
thought that being in Vero Beach, that I would tend to focus on more of the elderly, possibly the affluent, but it's really all over the place. It's first-time home buyers. It's middle-aged people who are back into the swing of things, getting a new job after the housing crisis, trying to get their credit back together again. It's the affluent who want to take advantage of the low interest rates.
So people shouldn't be intimidated by what you do, because you can help people out. And you'll take the one-timer,
Absolutely.
get people back on the credit bandwagon, right?
It's funny, you create a business plan, and then you end up throwing it out the window when you see the kinds of information and the kinds of business opportunities that come up. And
Well, that's kind of what we ran into in real estate. Same thing. Well, you got something there, Ray?
Yeah, I was going to say, now, from homeowners, what about the commercial end, since you were involved in that?
I was, and quite frankly, the commercial side was probably 3/4 of what I did. So we were providing construction loans to people on developers on office buildings, shopping centers. So I have the ability to help people, advise them as well if they're doing that. So I can put them into a mortgage for residential or commercial.
You know, there's a lot of brokers out there. What would you say is the number one thing that sets you apart from other brokers and other companies like yours?
Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think for me, there is a couple of things, and one is I am not restricted to, again, any other particular lender, but I focus exclusively on Florida, and particularly the Treasure Coast. I'm the only broker that really is headquartered in Vero Beach, with a combination of things, including headquartered in Vero Beach, residing in Vero Beach, exclusively residential transactions in Florida. You know, I'm not tied to any particular lender, and the experience. If I can pat my back, I've closed deals from $40,000 residential mortgages to $1 billion trophy properties
Awesome.
in office buildings. So the experience is there, and I touch every transaction. So if you're calling Ocean Mortgage Capital, I will be involved in that transaction.
Do you have other people working for you besides yourself?
I do. I have partners, and I have analysts, and I have people to help me out.
Wow.
That's good to know, because a lot of companies won't do a mortgage less than $50,000 because of the paperwork. So it's good you mentioned $40,000 and above. So
Yes.
it's a plus right there.
I can't imagine when someone calls me who clearly is a young couple. They're having a baby, coming up close. They want their first time mortgage. It happens to be $40,000 or $35,000. They need help, and so it's actually the most enjoyable part of doing business. I've closed lots of different deals and large transactions, but add a zero, deduct a zero. It really doesn't matter. You're dealing with people at the end of the day, and you want to help them.
Absolutely.
Here in Florida, where do you see the real estate market going here at the Treasure Coast and also the state of Florida? How do you feel about that?
Well, there's a lack of inventory. I'm sure I've heard your show as well, and we've been. I've listened in on the things you guys have said.
Yes.
You would probably agree that because of the inventory lacking, the prices have popped up a little bit.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it's somewhat artificial. There was so many Wall Street buyers, as a matter of fact, the likes of Blackstone and Colony Capital, and they're buying up $20+ billion worth of residential properties, whether it would be residential properties or the actual loans. It definitely beefed up pricing. So I'm a little bit hesitant as to where the market is right now in terms of the valuations. The people that have listings, I think, are holding out for an unrealistic price, and they may be holding for quite some time.
Yeah, we have a couple of people like that.
Yeah.
I wish we
know some of them.
I know.
Where are you presently seeing the most demand for your residential mortgages, if you will?
Well, they're quite frankly, most of them are single-family residences. They're people that there's still some stragglers from the snowbirds who have come down, bought homes, but they still haven't quite closed yet.
Yeah.
So we're still working through that. Some of them came down and said, we want to buy a home, but they weren't ready to qualify. Yeah. They had to fix up their credit to some extent. And then also there's been a lot of activity where people who are self-employed haven't had the right amount of seasoning for some of the banks to accept their financial position. So they're coming to me because they can't necessarily get a conventional mortgage or an FHA mortgage. And because they still need to have, let's say, another 2 years or 18 months of income that can show consistent earnings. Or maybe they need to increase their FICO credit score, those sorts of things. So I work with them and put them into a home thereafter. Or I'm able to tap them into private money sources, although it's a little more expensive. It's an alternative for them.
Wow, you have a variety of things you can offer.
Well, that's a plus. With the private, the interest rates might be higher, but you want to get the job done. The bottom line is, and you can always redo it later on.
Exactly, and these days, really, all of the mortgages are prepayable without penalty. If they are prepayable with a penalty, then you're probably not using the right lender.
Mike, how liquid is the market for loans?
It's very liquid, and I think you've seen a pullback, and in fact, there has been some of the banks have indicated 35 to 40% pullback in mortgage activity. That's huge, and because of that, look, banks are in the business to make money, so they need to find a way. And I think what you're going to find is that there's going to be more credits being offered, depending on the interest rate that you select. You'll be able to apply these credits towards closing. There'll be less fees up front. They'll be enticing you to bring the product in more, which is great for the consumer.
Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead. What should someone do if they can't qualify for a mortgage? We hear more and more about this because of a lower credit score or a prior bankruptcy, foreclosure, or even a short sale. Tell us a little about the commercial real estate market and lenders' appetite for this product.
Okay. Well, that's a couple of questions. One is, what should you do if you're in that sort of a situation? And then two, commercial, if I can address the first one,
yes,
is there are a lot of different things that you can do to improve your credit score. I don't profess to be the expert in those areas, but I can guide people and tell them what they need to do. And it's simply by looking at their credit report. You can see what sort of debt they have, how long they've been in arrears on something, or the length of time that they've been discharged from that bankruptcy or that foreclosure, or when they might have been released from a short sale situation. And so I work with them to pull together the information as best as possible so that it's presented in the best possible light to the lender. And there's no fabrications. What I find is that people will try to kind of skirt over the real issues, and you just got to get right to the heart of it, because the sooner you can come up with the best and plausible and truthful story, the better you're going to get a loan, and much quicker.
Mike, what factors could you see holding the market back?
A variety of things. I think the biggest concern that I would have is just the global economy right now, today. There are so many different issues going on, whether it's Iraq or, the issues with respect to Ukraine, and there's a lot of uncertainty at this stage. That's going to maintain rates to some extent lower. I mean, other things that I'm sure you know of is the regulations that the government is imposing on consumers with respect to mortgages.
Awful.
Through the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau.
Yeah.
Every week there's something new that it seems. That's an exaggeration, but, the bottom line is...
It feels
close.
like it, right?
Yeah.
It feels
Pretty close.
And it's not an exaggeration to say that the voluminous amount of paperwork that you have to sign and review,
Oh, man.
it gets worse and worse. And so that's the other thing is that, I will take the time and have the patience to walk people through these sorts of things. And it's no different whether you come to me or you come to a bank. It's the same. It's just a case
Same
of...
process.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Now,
really
question:
is.
You said you had some private backers or lenders.
Yes.
Would it be a little easier to go that way, maybe at a higher interest rate, than to deal with these banks and all the paperwork? And things?
Well, it's up to you. And let me clarify: they're not backers in terms of financial, investment with me.
Not a couple guys from
It's
Jersey,
just-
Ray.
But there are hard money lenders that are at still the 14-15% interest, which is crazy. But for some people, it is worthwhile for them to do if it's a short-term situation. In other cases, because of the fact that there are so many opportunities like this that are coming up, the private money sources are getting bigger and bigger, and they're becoming more and more competitive.
Yeah. Where do you see interest rates going, Michael?
Well, that's the million-dollar question that everybody is asking, and there's good reason for the rates to stay low. There's also good reason you can see it going up, and I'm happy to talk through it. But the bottom line, in my view, is that rates are still at historic lows. They really are, and if you're contemplating a purchase, you can't go wrong with a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage today, particularly if you're expecting to stay in place and not be moving. So you have issues with respect to the global economy. The U.S. job growth and the reports haven't been great lately, but in my view, you've got less. Look at how much money the government has been spending on bonds lately to prop up bond prices and keep the interest rates low. So, I think gradually you're going to start to see rates come up. There'll be some fluctuation, but I think the trend will be upward.
Now's the time.
I know.
To get a hold of you. Go ahead,
What lending trends, Mike, should people be aware of in the real estate market today?
Well, we've touched on some of them. I think the key issue is that because rates have been very low and are consistently low, there's a lot more adjustable rate mortgage product that's coming out. That's number one. Again, the regulatory issues are of concern, so we need to watch that to make sure that you don't have to sign 8,000 pieces of paper. But it is what it is, and we have to do what we have to do to cope with it. And I think other trends are that you're going to continue to see people move into the Vero Beach area, just from throughout the Treasure Coast. I think we just came off one of the best quarters in the history of the Treasure Coast. Really,
Awesome.
from bed tax at hotels to the number of people that have moved here to the number of tourists that have been in this area. It's been just a boom, and I think we're getting some great publicity. So
Absolutely.
We just came off of a client who went for an FHA mortgage, and boy, did they make him jump through hoops. I mean, to the point where getting his diplomas of the type of work.
I know.
It's just, and this thing went on, and we had to extend it, 3 times
I know.
to get it.
Yeah.
Poor guy was almost...
What's your thoughts of FHA?
Well, the positive news about FHA is that it's a little easier to get, believe it or not, even with all the voluminous documentation, it's a little easier to get approved under an FHA loan than it is on a conventional loan.
Really? Okay.
And you need the liquidity on a conventional loan to demonstrate your wherewithal, whereas with FHA, there's much less of a down payment that you need to come up with.
True. Was it like 3%?
3.5%.
Okay.
And actually, there are programs that'll take you up to 99%. But of course, you have to pay for additional interest rate. But
Right.
FHA is not a bad way to go for people that don't have a lot of liquidity, but yet can demonstrate that they can consistently make those monthly payments. To your point about the the diplomas, it's interesting because I actually just had a similar situation where someone approached me and said, I'd like to get financing. I don't have a lot of liquidity, and I've only been in my job for 8 months. Prior to that time, I was a student. So how do I demonstrate? How do I start?
Yeah, right.
And as long as you can show that you've been in the industry, whether it's because you've been working or you've been studying that particular, then you're good. So in that case, it was probably a benefit for that person to have those diplomas handy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Kind of running out of time. Your company, Ocean Mortgage Capital, is located here in Vero Beach. Whereabouts are you in town?
The Bank of America building and Miracle Mile.
Oh, so there we
Right
are.
there with-
Regis is up on top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a big networking event coming up this Thursday, by the way.
Yes, and I'll be there as well as among a variety of other different vendors
right.
and companies.
And you're in suite, was it 300?
That's it.
Is that the third floor? Is that how
That's correct.
Okay, see that?
Wow.
College really paid off for me.
1, 2, 3. You got an ocean view.
Yeah.
Look at the third floor.
Well, Michael, is there anything else you'd like to add today to our listeners and realtors out there?
Well, I'd say stay the course, be patient with the marketplace. I think you can't go wrong with investing in this economy, in this particular environment. You get in today, long-term holders are going to be happy with their investment for sure. And, it's a great time to be buying because of that reason, as well as because historically rates have been so low. So
Yeah.
I think real estate is a great place to be as long as you are patient.
And your phone number, and maybe you have a website you'd like to share with us?
Sure, and thank you for that. It's 772-453-2850. And just check us out anytime on oceanmortgage.com.
Alrighty. Brenda, I don't know about you, but I've been very comfortable with Michael. And as a realtor, I think I'd like to use him.
I do too. You're very,
Thank you.
very
Yeah.
informative, very down to earth,
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
And, who go that,
extra mile.
no pun intended. He's on Miracle Mile.
I know.
You stole
I knew
my
you would.
line. It's Michael Kanuka of Ocean Mortgage Capital. We'll be right back. Keep it right here.